This is one of my favorite MPC beatmakers, J Black, using the new MPC keys. Does anything particularly stand out as weird or out of place? It might be just me, but does it seem that he would be way more comfortable just using the good old MPC-X or Live 2?
Hi, welcome to the Midlife Synthesis. Let's get started.
Okay, so the MPC is 34 years old now since it first came out. It's starting to get back pains and it's gonna have to go see the proctologist soon for a prostate exam. And it seems to be going through somewhat of a midlife identity crisis. I've always been thrilled with each new update that Akai releases, expanding and growing this platform into something truly unique. But when the MPC keys came out, instead of all that usual excitement, I got kind of a weird feeling about it, and I just couldn't quite put my finger on what it was until I saw Ben Jordan's video. That's when I knew. Okay, this is what bothers me. In case you haven't seen his video or you don't know who Ben Jordan is a professional musician and a YouTuber, and he frequently performs under his artistic handle, The Flashbulb. As is understandable, after seeing all the publicity and hoopla over the MPC keys, Ben thought that this might be the final solution to his live performance setup problem. After all, if you had the choice between carrying this instead of this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, and this, yeah, I'd be pretty hyped as well. As always happens when looking for an ultimate solution in synthland, the publicity and the reality are very different things. Ben quickly found out about a few bugs, which I haven't personally experienced as often as he did, but I know they do happen.
This bass is only in my left speaker. I hear some of the reverb in this side.
Also, the very long loading times for the plugins, along with glitches in those loads where you may have to reload a patch more than once for it to really work. And of course, the hardware limitations of the MPC when overloading it with plugins and effects and so on.
Whoa!
I did a stress test on the MPC Live 2 a few months ago.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Which I'll link in the description if you want to check that out. However, Ben's experience was so buggy that he went so far as to call it unusable in the video title.
How dare you, sir?
In his defense, I do think that he meant unusable in a performance situation where he would have to switch between projects and sounds frequently. Some people took offense to that, but that's another issue, and I'm not going to go into the whole Ben Abe McCree beef that ensued, but I will say that I at least found Ben's video to be very transparent and honest. Now, me personally, I haven't had a bad experience with the MPC, but only because I've been using it for a very different purpose than what Ben needed. But that's not Ben's fault to think that this could do everything he needed it to do, because that's what the publicity is telling you that it can do. It's being marketed as a competitor to something as the Roland Phantom or the Yamaha Montage, with the added bonus of the tried and true MPC workflow. But it's not. It's really absolutely not what it is. And Ben's video only proved what I suspected when the MPC came out, that the MPC is losing its identity in trying to become something that does a little bit of everything, but specializes in nothing. For example, the MPC is supposed to be DAW-less, right? But in reality, it has slowly become a DAW in itself, albeit a very limited one when compared to something like Ableton or Logic. I talked about that in a video a very long time ago about how in this search for being a DAW competitor, the MPC and even the machine would ultimately lose their magic and become basically inferior versions of the very thing they were supposed to be an alternative to. Now with the MPC keys, it wants to be a stage piano, and having had the Phantom for quite a while now, I can tell you that there's a reason that this thing is so damn expensive. But before you think that I'm just gonna continue ranting on the MPC, let me tell you that the MPC is one of my favorite and dearest devices in my studio, but only because I think I understand what it really is supposed to be behind all this added embellishment. To me, the MPC is first and foremost a sampler and a MIDI sequencer. I can pretty confidently say that I've tested pretty much all of the heavy hitters in the sampling world, like the Octatrack, the SP4-4SX, the Mark II, Ableton, other stuff like that. And the MPC remains one of my favorite sampling experiences overall, both for its flexibility and its ease of use. Editing, chopping up, and mangling samples is a joy every single time. And I rarely ever encounter a bug or any other performance glitches that do get in the way of my creativity. Now, they do happen, they just don't happen as often. The multi-sampler function for creating your own instruments is amazing, and I've pretty much been able to successfully clone some of my favorite synth patches with the added bonus that, at least in my experience, the multi-sample instruments are more stable and less power hungry than the internal plugins. See, to me the problem, with huge air quotes, started when they began adding plugins to the MPC. Don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing that they did that, and for free even, before the keys. But the problem is that you start shifting the expectations of the device. The plugins were always a bonus to me, something to just help my track get along, until I could later replace it with one of my real synths, be it VST or hardware. After adding the Hype and the Selena synths especially, I kinda got the idea that Akai were looking to really up the ante and have those as permanent sounds. A very cool idea, but we're talking about taking the hardware to its very limits, and that's okay, but you're gonna get people pissed when they buy into the device thinking it's Ableton in a box when it's not. Let me put it this way. If the new Ford Mustang came out with a built-in espresso maker and Ford made it a point that the espresso was the best you've ever tasted, pretty soon you're gonna get people giving it a bad review because the coffee wasn't up to their standards. But the coffee was never the reason to buy the Mustang in the first place. Same thing with the MPC. The MPC is trying way too hard to be everything to everyone, and though that is a commendable task that I feel I've been personally benefited by, the sad truth is when you try to be the product for everyone, you end up being the product for no one. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you take a second to click that like button and maybe drop me a comment down below, because I'd really like to know what's your take on all of this. And if the gas happens to hit you, don't forget to check out my affiliate links down below, or consider joining my Patreon so we can continue talking on the Midlife Discord. I'll see you there. So back to the MPC. Now, I'm all for free upgrades, and the MPC has been a joy to own while it continues to grow and expand, but there does come a point where that growth needs to become focused so as to be a strength and not a handicap. The best example I can think of focused growth that has benefited the platform is the SP404 Mark II. A huge leap forward without pouring too much into other territories that make it seem like a weird device. Well, maybe a little bit with that whole DJ mode thing, and you get what I mean. For years, the MPC has been a pillar in the sample-based musician scene. The MPC is something I've always immediately associated with lo-fi, sample chopping, mangling, as well as being a finger drummer's best friend. The MPC is way more than just an instrument. It's a whole working environment where you can lay down tracks to make a full song in. But it's not a DAW. It's not supposed to be. Nor is it a stage piano in the sense of the Phantom or the Montage. And who knows, it might even become those things in the future as the software develops and perhaps a new generation with more powerful hardware shows up. But I personally kind of hope that it doesn't. Because, let's be honest, we already have enough DAWs and there are already enough stage pianos to go around. But there's only one MPC. And I hope Akai doesn't lose sight of that. That's all I had to say about that. If you want more info about the MPC, be sure to check out some of my other videos, which I'll link below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, or at least entertaining. Have a great week. See you in the next one.